So one of the most unprecedented amounts of spoiled votes in Irish history, both in general election, local elections, referendums, etc., the presidential election that we just had, 213,000 spoiled votes, including myself. Many people feel forgotten, and that's just a simple fact in this country. Many people do feel forgotten, they feel alienated from the political system, and I do too. Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the majority of the parties in the Dáil don't represent me. The majority of politicians are talking nonsense. A lot of them are talking utter nonsense, let's put it that way. They're not singing the tune of the only Irish person. Because the only Irish person suffering, there's so many Irish young people suffering to try and get houses, to try and get everything, and they have to fight tooth and nail to get it. And our politicians are singing a different tune in Dáil Éireann, and they don't give a damn. Simple as that, they don't give a damn. And we see with the presidential election, this whole system is a mess. It's not a democracy. You're selected, not elected. And that's the whole point of it, that you're selected, not elected. And the way it should be in democracy, that any citizen, regardless, even the person I didn't agree with, should be allowed to run. Because that's democracy. Every citizen should be allowed to put their name on the ballot for the President of Ireland. Because that's what it is. It's about the people of Ireland. It's not about a select few. Because that's authoritarianism. That's dictatorship. When you have a few people that are chosen and selected, I suppose is the way to put it. That's dictatorship. And that's what we've seen. That the mainstream parties, the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and the majority of the parties blocked candidates, blocked anybody, apart from their own candidates, from getting in. And that system is dictatorship of a democracy. That is not a democracy. And the way it should be for the president, as everybody would say, any citizen can put their name forward. But yeah, it's a well kick in the mouth for the government, and it's about time they got a kick in the mouth and a kick in the hole, because the government, it's evil what they're doing. We see so many Irish people homeless. We see so many Irish people having to leave, young Irish people never to return. There's no hope for them in this country, including a lot of people like myself. We're working aimless jobs, getting a few bob a week, and it's just enough to get by, pretty much what I mean to say. And it's a disgrace. And we see immigration too. The government refused to handle immigration. We've seen in City West what happened. A fellow that was supposed to be deported back in March, he's still here in the country, and he committed a heinous crime against the Irish people, the Irish state, and the tax he got for pretty much coming into the country, money paid for the whole shebang. But loads of people feel forgotten and see this kind of carry on going on in this country. People are very angry about it, and rightly so. And then we know too that 54% of the Irish electorate didn't even bother to turn up, along with the people that spoiled their votes. That 54% didn't turn up to even vote. In a lot of cases, I know a few people that just didn't bother. They were thinking about spoiling their votes, but in a lot of cases they didn't spoil the votes because they didn't see the need, because they just didn't want to go. They didn't care for any of the candidates, and they just wanted to get about their lives. They just wanted to go and collect their children from school, or bring their children out for a day, or go to work, etc. Or go to the etc. They had no time to go and spoil their votes, etc., etc. And I understand that. And a lot of people didn't see the need because it didn't make any difference to them if the man in the moon got into the presidency. So a lot of Irish people didn't feel the need to go and vote, and to be totally honest, I wouldn't blame them. But a lot of Irish people did do spoil their votes, and including about 2 or 3% voted for Jim Gavin. As you know, Jim Gavin pulled out of the race. So pretty much they should need to be included the spoiled votes, because a lot of people probably that voted for Jim Gavin intended to spoil the votes by voting for Jim Gavin. So if you add all that up, it'd be about 350,000 or so, including the spoiled votes and then Jim Gavin, and then the rest of the people that didn't turn up, which was nearly half of it. Catherine Connolly got about, even though it's historic, don't get me wrong, Catherine Connolly's victory is historic. It's more than Eamon De Valera in 1959, which is insane to think, but it is true. Even though like half the electorate didn't turn up, 54%, as I say, didn't turn up to the vote. She still got 32% of the vote, give or take, around that. So it is quite historic. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't historic. It is historic, even though I don't agree with Catherine Conning in a lot of stuff. But I will say it is historic victory for her, of course. But it represents the whole Irish society, and people have to be listened to, because people are very angry. People like myself too are very angry. We see what's happening in the country. I see it every day, unfortunately. I see things that are disgusting that should never happen in this country. That should never happen in any country. We take, for example, the poor young lad that died of scoliosis. Young children waiting years, dying, because it's taken so long for them to get operations for scoliosis. And Simon Harris said no child would wait more than 6 months for scoliosis treatment. That's a lie, and it's basically putting young people to their graves, unfortunately. A lot of young children to their graves. And the same as this state, they're putting a lot of elderly people, only citizens too, that are waiting so long for operations for different things that they're going to their graves because of it. And then not to mention immigration, then not to mention crime. People are afraid to walk the streets of this country. People are afraid to go anywhere. Tourists are afraid to come to this country. The list goes on. Like, I could sit here for another hour discussing everything. But what I'm trying to say, there needs to be radical change, because people protesting on the street, and me shouting this from the rooftops, because I've been shouting from the rooftop about many things I'm just after saying, even more I could say. And people are not being listened to. The government are just kind of pushing you aside and saying, oh, you're a far-right extremist, we ignore you. And see, when you do this in society, when you demonise people, when you shut people down for their opinions, it leads to discontent, it leads to people being very, very angry. And that's what we're seeing. People are extremely angry. And rightly so, because that's what's been said for the last few years. Anybody that had any definition from the Irish establishment, if you had any different opinion from the government, you were far-right extremist. You were worse than the Nazis. That's what they would say, pretty much. But if we do that in society, even I would even say for even people on the other side, I hate using the termination far right, far left, etc. But even for people on the far left, they have entitlement to speak their minds too. It's not just one side should speak their minds. Everybody should speak their minds. But it's the fact of the matter in society nowadays, and this is not even just an Irish society, across the world too, there's a demonisation in society of different people that have opinions. Even from your conservative side, the way where I'm standing, people get shouted down for being too far left, and then people get shouted down for too left, and it's just nobody ever can come to any kind of agreement or anything, because everybody's just shouting at each other, and nobody can make head nor tails of what's going on. So something has to change in society too, because it's a very bad state of affairs when you have people that feel rejected, people that feel forgotten. It leads to anger. In a lot of cases we've seen around the world too, it can lead to revolution, it can lead to violence, and that's what we're seeing too. We see violence happening in a lot of countries, in Ireland too, because people feel forgotten, and that's what happens. Anger leads to violence, and etc. etc. And we don't want that. We want try and find solutions, reasonable solutions, because violence no place in any society. It doesn't solve anything, pretty much. But yes, the Irish people, and I'm happy to say that I've voted to spoil my vote. Pretty much, I voted for that agenda, But long story short, it gave the government a good kick in the hole, and it showed them up. And then even the people that didn't turn up, it gave them a good kick in the hole too, because it doesn't look good. It's not good in democracy, because the thing about it is, democracy and the system relies on people to participate. And then if you reject the system, there's not much they can really do about it. And that's what happened in this case. A lot of people rejected the system and told them to stuff their system. And that's a very bad thing for democracy. Of course, it's very bad for democracy that people feel that they have no other choice but to spoil the vote. And not even that too, people that didn't feel encouraged to go out and vote. Because they see no difference. A lot of it, I say if we went and asked a lot of people why they didn't, I even know some people, they would tell you it made no difference to them who got in and what happened, because it's not going to help them pay the rent, pay the bills, etc. But anyway, let me know what you think. What do you think? Do you think something will change? Hopefully the government will listen some way to people. I presume they will change the voting process of the president. I presume they will change that, because they kind of will have to do it, unfortunately. We're not unfortunately for us, but unfortunately for the government, they kind of forced. The hand has been forced, I suppose, in this regard. But I don't know about immigration and stuff is something going to happen, because a lot of the ballot papers too had immigration sentiment about what happened in City West, etc., etc. And that has to be looked at too, because a lot of people. It's not just 5 or 6 people; it's 200,000. It's quite a lot. The people are very angry about different things. Even take for example the cost of living too. People have put that on ballots. Different other stuff, messages about different things. We could go through to the cows come home, but the message stays the same. But a lot of people feel discontented and disenfranchised by the Irish state. So let me know what you think. Subscribe for more. And what do you think? What's your opinion on this? Thank you.